Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Yep. So were you able to like do some of those exercises we discussed last time?
I'm so sorry for that. So I was a little bit occupied this week. Even the last class, I was just going through it um,
Okay.
before we start this class. So that's the reason I was unable to do it. But definitely, I will try my best to do it.
All right.
So
No
before
worries.
next class.
Okay. Yep. Um, let's think. Let me open this. Right, so last time I think we stopped at is it the Chrome dev tools, yeah, after discussing pseudo elements. So the last topic we discussed about how to use the Chrome developer tools. Um, so today we're going to start from discussing about conflicting selectors. Um, okay, let me just let me have an H. This is the H2 of conflicting selectors. So, when we're talking about conflicting selectors, what we simply mean is that if, for example, you have an element and on that particular element, you have an ID, let's say you have an ID to be whatever, and then you style that ID, let's say you give it a color red, and then you have a class on that same element, you give it a color blue. That's the text color, I mean. And then um you now when you're running your code, now how do you determine which color gets applied to the element? Is it going to be the red for the ID, or is it going to be like the blue for the class? And you can also use other selectors, like you can select the element tag. Let's say, for example, you just say H2 or paragraph P, and then you style it to be color green. Now you have three different styles. So which one gets applied to the element? So this is what we mean by conflicting selector. And I'm going to give an example of this. So let's say we have a paragraph. Lord, let me say we have an article, and inside of this article, let's say I have a paragraph, and then inside this paragraph, I can just give it any text. Let's say so. If I look at this in my web page. I think, yeah. So we have this conflicting property selector. So that is what we want to have different selectors on. So let's say on this, I have an ID of, let's just put it conflict ID. Can give it any name. And then I have a class. And then the class is called, let's just give it anything. So now I have these two properties. Yeah. So now I have these two property, conflict ID and conflict class. So we're going to give it, um, so let's style it color. Let me give this one to be blue nose. And then I also have this class. So let me give it a color of red. So now we have two conflicting properties on the same paragraph, the ID and the class. Let's now say we also add another selector. Let's say we have the article, and inside the article, I said we should have the paragraph inside the article. Right?
Yeah,
So then,
excuse me, Lateef.
yeah,
So that conflict ID and conflict class, are they case sensitive or not? Because I see that you use capital letter I for ID and capital letter C for class.
yeah. It's just what I choose because I was just copying any one of them. So that's why, and that is what I use inside the article class. So
Okay,
you can either use a capital letter or a small letter, whichever one you prefer.
okay,
So yeah, let's say we give it a color green, and then so now we have three. This is one. The ID is pointing to this. This is also pointing to this, which is still on this property. And then this article P. So we have all the paragraph inside of article. That is the selector. This is also pointing to this. So now, in this case, how do we determine which one gets applied? But let me use the second for this. Okay. Because I already have a couple of slides that might mess this up. So let me do it this way. Copy this. Or instead of article, let me say, I think I use article some. I don't want this to be messed up. So let me just do this. Okay, so let's copy these guys. Okay, but in this case, I'm going to create a new CSS class called CSS2, style2 rather, style2.css. So yeah, so the CSS class I'm going to also be different. Yeah, so let me put this style2 here. Okay, so this style also, I'm going to copy this one out of it. Okay. So now instead of this index, we're going to be looking at this page. So let's see this from our browser. Okay. So we have the but say, okay, now we have the blue color. That is what gets applied. But how do we know this is what is going to be applied? Let's see. This is conflicting ID which get applied. Then if you look at the so let me explain the way this is choosing. In CSS, we have hierarchy, we have priorities in terms of um, how these classes, um, IDs, or any other selectors are being applied to the CSS element. So the lowest priority is the universal. We've not talked about universal selector, but let me just this is called a universal selector. So it means that it's going to select every element on the web page. Yeah. So this is the lowest priority. After this, we have the element selector, which is what we did here. This is element selector. We selected the element, and then after that, we have the class selector. The next in the hierarchy is the class selector, which is what we did there. And then after that, the next is the the ID, which is what we did here. We have an ID. After that, then we also have the inline styles. Inline styles, like if you have your side something inside the element itself, and after the inline style, we have the this which is called importance. Just give it the importance. But we're going to see all these scenario in action. So let me just explain what happened there. So, like I said the ID is an higher priority than the class and the element selector. So that is why this is this. Now, if I let me inspect it so that we look through it. Okay, so now we have, you can see now the red is striked out. The green is also striked out because that is not what is being applied. So let's say, for example, I don't want this color, this ID to be applied. The next priority is the class. So the class is going to take over the color, and that's why you can see here that it changed to red because that is what is the next in line. And then if the class is not being applied, that is when the element selector, which is the color green, gets applied, and that is why you have it. Also, one thing I want to notice that like it doesn't matter the how you maybe you can have this one last, how you structure your code, or you can have this one last and still the same thing is still going to apply. It doesn't matter how you can say we have it in blue because that has the highest priority in this situation. So I also mentioned about inline styles. I say inline styles has more priority than the IDs. So let's say here I'll just give it an inline style. Let's say we have style equals to color. Um, let's give it a something. Is it black? Okay, let's give. Okay, we want something else. Let's try this. All right. So if I give it this color, because this inline styles has an higher priority compared to ID, so it's going to take over um the color of the particular text. As you can see, it changes to the same color. So, and after this, the highest priority is the important keyword. Let me delete this. So if I save this and I go back to the home page, you can see that we still have blue because that is the highest priority, which is the ID. But let's say I had importance to this green color. So what I'm simply saying is that, like, I don't care what other color might have been assigned to this class. I want this particular color to apply to the specific element, irrespective of any other conflicting values that might have been applied previously, or maybe with another priority. So the important keyword has the highest priority in this particular scenario. So if I refresh this, instead of showing blue, then it's going to change to green because of the important keyword. I'm simply saying that this is important. Choose this color whenever you're applying this particular color to this text. So that is for conflicting selectors. Also, let me give you another scenario. Let's say you have another class, and let's say, for example, this class is called let's just say text paragraph. And then let me give it another color. Let's see what kind of color we can give. Um, Let me change this. Oh, what? So let's see what the color we can use. Dark blue. Okay, let me use this dark magenta. Okay, now I have I have a class here. Let me add the class to this element. So let me say class equals to what did I call it? Text. Oh, sorry, I already have a class here, so let me just have another class here. Yeah, there's no need to write it again. Yeah, so you can just add the class next to it. So now I'm having two classes here. So how will the browser determine which class gets selected? So let's go back to this. Remember, we still have important on this, so that's why this is the selecting text. But if we remove it, then the default selection goes back to the blue. All right, so now we have two classes. So how do we know which one is going to get selected out of these two? So what if they have the same priority? What the browser will do is that it's going to choose the one that come last in your code. So in this case, I think we have the conflict class last or something. Let's see. Let's see. We have the conflict class before the text paragraph. So that means we have the text paragraph last. So now if we uncheck this one also, then you can see now that the text paragraph is the one that is next in the priority list. And the text color also changes to the dark magenta. And that is just simply because they have the same priority. These two classes are because they are both classes, so they have the same priority, but because this one comes last in the code, that's why it's going to take over that effect. But let's say I change this, I change the position so that the conflict class comes last. If I refresh the page, now we still have, so let me check this one, let me uncheck this also. So now you see we have the red applying to it because in the code now, the red is coming last before, after the text paragraph class. So when they have the same priority, then the one that comes last will get selected. But if they have different priority, then the one with the highest priority will always get applied to that particular text. Okay, so any questions so far? That is for conflicting selectors.
No question for now.
Okay, so we can move on to let me go back to this. Uh, all right. So last week I was talking about when I was talking about the Chrome Dev tools. I think I made mention of this. I said that we're going to talk more about this later. So we're going to discuss about this now. How the this is called the CSX box model. So what it typically means is that we can like have the CSS, the HTML elements, we can view it in terms of a rectangle. So it contains the content. I'm still going to define this in web pages so that we can fully get the idea. But so it can have the content, it can have a border, it can have margin. So it just simply means how elements are displayed on a web page. So for example, if I have, let's say I'm looking at this paragraph. So you're going to look at this paragraph in as a rectangular box. And for any element to select, this box model is always going to be showing here. So you're just going to define it as a rectangular box, and then you can define different properties on it. Like I said, the padding, the border, on any, they are not compulsory to define, but these are stuff you can define on it. So let's start from the first one, which is the content. So the content is just like the texts, you can say text or images, stuffs like that. That is the content. And the content is just the area that is visible, on the web page. That is the content. Now, so that's why you have it something like this here. This one that my mouse is hovering. So this is the width and the height of the content. That is it. So that is it. So the next one we have is the padding that's above this content. So the padding just simply means a transparent area around the content of of that element. So let's say if I give this specific tag now, if I say, let's say I give it a padding of like 10 pixel, you will see a 10 pixel space, that's a transparent space around that element. We are going to see this in practice, but let me just move on. So after this padding, you have the border. The border, I think we already discussed the border. Yeah, like this paragraph, we talked about border. This is the border. The border is just like this rounded corners around that specific element. So that is the border. We already talked about this. So apart from the border, so we also have the margin. The margin is like the space between boxes. So this is like between different elements. If I have um this element and I have this element, the space between this element and this element is what we mean by margin. And then the last one we normally have is the field area. So the field area simply means the area that gets filled when we use like CSS property like the background color. So those areas that get filled is what we mean by the content, the field area. Just if you look at this example too, you will see that this when we use background color here for this particular div, this area gets filled, and also including the border, because the border too, you can change the color to match this. So all this environment area are called the fill area. But when you use margin just gives spaces outside of the box, so it doesn't include margin. So let me open the editor so that we can see what I mean in practice. Okay, so um, let me just do a let me create another div here. Let's give this a class box model. So um so, so this box model, I'm just going to give it a width of, don't worry, and the height of, so I'll also give it a background. Okay, let me see it in browser. Oh, there's no context in it. Oh my bad. I was in the wrong CSS. Yeah, so this is what we have now. Let me see if we can do this without. Okay. So now let's inspect this box and then, yeah, we'll talk about it. Now, this is a div, right? And this div now, if you notice, I gave it like 200 by 200 width and also 200 pixel height. So if you look at the box model, you have 200 by 200. So which means the width is 200 and also the height is 200. So now watch what happens. Let me add a border to it. Now let me add a border. I'm going to add a border of 5 pixel. Then I'm going to make it solid. And then let's give it like a black color. Now let me refresh this. Okay, so we have a black color. So now you see, now we have the width and the height to still be 200 pixel. And then we have the border to be 5 pixel. So that is the border. So as I'm highlighting it, you can also see that it's getting highlighted in the browser itself, in the display. So you have 200 pixel and then you have 5 pixel border. So now let's give it some padding around the content. So let me see padding. Let's give it also a 5 pixel. So let me refresh this and then let me inspect this. So now you see the padding is 5 pixel. Let me change it so that it doesn't change it to 10 pixel. So now the padding is 10 pixel. The all around up, bottom, and left and right, they are 10 pixel. The border is 5 pixel, also everything. And the content is 200 by 200. So that is but now for margin, for padding also, if you look at the padding, the content itself is the width of the content itself is 200, but there's space after that content, which is 10 pixels. So that is the padding. which is just a transparent area around the content itself. So it's going to take any color associated with the content itself. So that means that's a transparent area around it. So similarly, for margin is like the spaces between two boxes. So let me copy this and paste it also again. I can then include, let me refresh this so that we see what we have. Yep, it's true. So let me give it some margin. So margin, I'm saying margin right, left. So I don't want to specify, then I can also say 10 pixel. So if I give it 10 pixels, so what that means is that it's going to automatically have space outside of this border, which is transparent, which is 10 pixels between this element and this element. So the margin left, the margin left, margin right, margin top, and margin bottom becomes 10 pixels for both of them. So if you look at this, you have the margin to be 10 pixel left, right, bottom, and up. So what this simply means is that when we are calculating the actual width of an element, it means that we are going to, the actual width of this element is actually the left border plus the left padding plus the width itself, which is 200 pixel plus the right padding plus the right border. So that is the actual width of the. So in total, we're saying that we have this is 10 plus 5, this is 15, this is also 15, which is 30, this is 200, which is 230. So that means that is the total width, actual width of this content, and not really 200 by 200 that we specify. So we just have to keep this in mind, although there's a way to change this, and we're going to talk about it later. But if we are doing it this way, we have to keep it in mind that we can specify a width or height for an element, but adding the padding and the border increases the width and the height of that particular element. So similarly, the same thing for height also. The top border plus the top padding plus the height, which is 200, plus the bottom padding plus the bottom border, which is 5 pixels. So that's also 200 plus 230, which is 230. So in total, the actual width of this element is actually 230 by 230. But we specify just the content area in the box itself to be 200. But the actual width of this is 230 by 230. Yeah, so apart from this, apart from the box model, we can also talk about the different type of block elements. Block level elements. I believe, I think you guys also discussed it in HTML, but so I'm just going to like quickly talk about them and go into some of the examples on what we can do in CSS. So block level elements usually takes the full width of a page, and that is what we've been doing most of the time in this class. For example, we've been using the H1 tag, the paragraph tag. These are block level elements because they takes the full width of that of the line, and then also they always start in a new line. That's why if I have paragraph H2, they are block level elements, they always start in a new line because their block level. That is one of their properties. They always start a new line. And also you can specify like a width and height to these block elements. And you will notice that I did the same similar thing for this div class that I called class box. So I specify a width and height for it because it's going to get applied because it is a block level element. Another other examples also we apart from the paragraph that we've used div, which is also a block level element. You can also use the list. I think we also mentioned list here. The list also is also a block level element. The table, I believe you guys also talk about table in HTML. That's also a block level element because it shares the same property as other block level elements. So apart from the block level elements, we also have the inline elements. Also, the inline elements, they are different from the block level elements in the sense that instead of taking up the full width, they don't take over the full width. They just take only the space they needed for that particular content. So um let's say for example this anchor tag, um or let me see what else. Okay, you know what? Let me just create a span level element here. My bad. So okay, let me now create a strong input here. Okay, so if I save this, let me go to the browser. Let me refresh this. And then you see that, okay, I didn't change the text. So let me refresh this. Now, you see that the span element started from here and stopped here. Then when I added the bold element, the bold tag, it also started from just after the next element, which is the span. So because the span and this strong tag are inline elements, so they don't take over the full width and they don't start from a new line. Unlike the paragraph, the div that we've been using, the H1, the unordered list or the list, they are all block level elements. But this one, the span, anchor tag, the strong, the inputs for forms, they are all um, inline inline elements, and you can't actually apply width and height to this inline element. So let's say, for example, if we this is a span tag, so let me just say span, then let me have it the width to be, let's say the same thing as that, 200 pixel by 200 pixel. So the width to be 200 pixels. And then we can also give it the same thing, the height to be also 200 pixels. So if I save this and then we go back to the page, you can see it doesn't take over any of the spaces available to it because we can't apply this to inline element. The same thing with margin and padding. You can actually add margin and the padding to it, but you can only add it to the left and the right. So that is where you can apply your margin to. You can't apply margin to the top or the bottom. So we can also try this. Let me just, I think there's where this time. Okay. Yeah, so I can, do this straight. Say margin, I'm going to give it a margin of, say, um 50 pixel. Yeah, you can see, just like I said, there's margin applied to the left and there's also margin applied to the right. But to the top and the bottom, no margin was applied. So it works for both left and right, but not for top and bottom. The same thing with the padding also. If I change this to, say, padding, it's also going to get applied. You can see nothing changes. So padding to the left, padding to the left and right, and then the padding top and the padding bottom does not apply. So that is the inline block level element, the inline level element, sorry. So we discussed the block and then the inline. But what about if you want the inline level element to also behave like the block, so that such that you can actually apply like the margin top, margin bottom, the padding, you can apply the width and the height. So how do we do this? So this is where we the inline block level element comes in. So it's just like um it's an inline element, but you can also apply those box model properties to it, which is the margin, border, padding, height, and the width. So you can apply these box model properties to the inline element, and that is what we call the inline block level element. So let's see how this works. Now, um, I was not able to apply height and width to this element, but let me change the display. Like you see, there is block, there is block, there is inline. This is the inline level element, and then there is inline blocks. So this is the inline block. So let's try it. The inline block level element. Okay, let's width and height. Okay, so now you see we have the width to still be 200 pixel, and now the height, let's inspect it so that we see it. So now if you, okay, so now we have this. If you look at it, we have 200 by 200. You can see the highlighted area that it is 200 by 200 now. The height and the width has been applied to the element. The same thing also if we apply the, let's say we add, let me go back to this and add margin to it. Let me say 10 pixel margin. Then we refresh this, it's going to, you can see there's margin from this element to the block element, to the div element, because we've added the margin to it. If I increase this, let me put it as 50. Yeah, you can see we can apply these box model properties to the inline elements. So that is how we can convert an inline element to a block level element. Also, we can also apply, let's say we don't want it to be like an inline block, we just want it to be a block level element also. Can do the same thing. So you can change the display from inline block to block level element. You can also do this for other inline elements. Like we also have the, I mentioned the strong tag. you can also do the same thing for, let's say, the anchor tag, which is the link. Yeah. So you can also do the same thing. It's an inline element. You can change it to inline block, and you can also apply all these box model properties to it. Yeah. Also, I was talking about the margin and the padding. So, but the ones I've been using, I've just been using the padding margin without specifying the top, the margin top, margin bottom, margin right, or margin left. So you can also do the same thing. You don't have to write it this way. This way, it simply just is the shorthand with ways. So it means that the margin top should be 10 pixel, the margin bottom should be 10 pixel, the margin right should be 10 pixel, and the margin left should also be 10 pixel. But if you want to write it out, you can just have, like, for example, margin, let's say margin top 10 pixel, then you have margin bottom 10 pixel, and then you have your margin right 10 pixel, and then margin left 10 pixel. So you can also do this way. It's the same thing. Also, you can have it in like two forms. Let's say you have margin, you can have like the top and bottom to be, say for example, 5 pixel, and then the left and right to be 10 pixel. This is another way you can, write this. But let's say in this case we have top and bottom to be 5 pixels. So this is what we mean: 5 pixel, 5 pixel. So top and bottom 5 pixel, then the left and right should be 10 pixel. This is your, so you can use either one of them. So they are the same thing, but I'm just going to comment it out. Okay. Similarly, the same thing for padding also. You can do the same thing with padding. You can have padding left, padding left to be 5 pixel. You can have the right to be 5 pixel, the top to be 5 pixel, and the bottom to be 5 pixel. And similarly with margin, you can also just say padding to be, say, 5 pixel for the top and bottom, and also say 5 pixel for the left and right. So I'm also going to comment this out. But for this one that is just padding 5 pixels all through, so it's just going to be top, bottom, left, and right, 5 pixel. So you can do either one of these stuffs, anyone you feel completely fine with. So that is for the box model. Is there any questions so far? Any
No,
questions?
no, I
No?
don't.
Okay. Okay. So since there's no question, I think the meeting is starting at 3. Yeah. Yeah. So let's discuss one more thing before we like call it a day. Okay, I just wanted to show a trick in this case. Let's say, for example, we have this box and this box, but we want this box to be like at the center of the page. Like, how do we do it, and what do we do in this case? It's also related to box model, so that's why I want to quickly mention it now. So what we can do to center an element on this page is that we can, the class is called box. So we can go to the to this and just say instead of this margin to be 10 pixel, so we can have like margin margin left and right. So we can either do margin left and right, but I'm just going to leave it at margin to be 0 pixel for the top and bottom, right? And then the left and right should be auto. So you can see it gets shifted to the center of the page. If I close this, just gonna be it's still gonna be at the center of the page. As the page is growing, you can see it's going to keep getting shifted to the center of the page. You can see. So this is just a little trick how you can like center the elements to the page. So you use the margin left. We can also rewrite it as maybe in full. Instead of writing it, let me just write it here so that we can comment them together. So margin left and have 10 pixel and then margin right and have 10 pixel. Oh my God. I mean auto, not 10 pixel. Auto. Okay, now if I comment this out, we're still going to have the same result. So let me just comment it out and then refresh the page. Yeah, we're still going to have the same result because we are just specifying it. In this case, we are saying the left and right should be the top and bottom should be 0, the left and right should be auto. So it's going to adjust that element to fit the page at the center of that to fit the element at the center of that page. So that's literally what the margin auto means. That's just a little trick if you want to center an element at the center. Okay. One we can also talk about, let me see. This is okay. Maybe we can continue from here tomorrow then, since it's about 8 p.m. So, do you have any question before we close?
No.
Okay, okay, no problem. Then that means we can continue from here tomorrow and um.